Next on Close Up, 2 new pills, 2 promising treatments for COVID patients. Why some doctors are actually worried about these new defenses against the pandemic. 43 tornadoes blew through Iowa on December 15th. The program now available to guide thousands of disaster victims to the help they need to rebuild. Marijuana amendment, why State House Democrats say it's time to change Iowa's constitution to make marijuana legal.
This is Iowa's news leader. This is KCCI 8 News Close Up.
Good morning, I'm Andrew Mullenbeck. The Food and Drug Administration just approved 2 new weapons against the fight against COVID, weapons that can be used at home. Thursday, the FDA authorized the use of drug maker Merck's antiviral pill, Molnupiravir. Data showed the new drug cuts the risk of hospitalization or even death by 30% for high-risk patients. It would be prescribed to adults with mild to moderate COVID symptoms. The FDA's approval of the Merck drug came 1 day after they approved another at-home treatment by Pfizer. Studies show their antiviral pill, Paxlovid, reduces the risk of hospitalizations and death by 88%, but only if given within the first 5 days of symptoms. Pfizer's drug needs to be taken over 5 days, 3 pills twice a day. The FDA authorized that drug's use for high-risk adults and children 12 and older. KCCI's Marcus McIntosh spoke with Dr. Anissa Froese, an infectious disease specialist at Mercy One. She says these new treatments hold a lot of promise, but they also carry a risk that people will think of them as a substitute for a vaccination.
Yeah, so I think we were waiting for this. We were waiting for this for a long time because we do not have any good outpatient, treatments for COVID. So I think this is sort of the first pill, and it is a breakthrough. We actually thought the Merck pill that the talk would get approved first, but looks like when Pfizer submitted their data, I mean, it was very impressive the way hospitalizations can be prevented. So I think we are very excited about it. I think both outpatient physicians and people like me who work in the hospital, because really if we can keep the patients, within the clinic system at home and get over this and prevent hospitalizations, will be a big step.
What does this pill mean for COVID in general?
Yeah, so it is an antiviral medicine. It is like that IV antiviral medicine that we use in the hospital, remdesivir. So this is a combination of 2 antiviral medicine. One medicine is very well known to us because we use an HIV population. It's called ritonavir. There is a low-dose ritonavir in it and with another additional new antiviral medicine. So it's a combination of 2 antiviral medicine. So COVID disease, initial phase of that 5-7 days, there is rapid viral replication, multiplication of virus. So if antiviral is used as soon as possible, it stops the replication of virus. So people get well sooner. People feel less symptomatic. So antivirals really work in that initial viral replication phase. That is why it's recommended, 5 days, within 5 days or just after 5 days, you should use this.
What are the concerns you have about this, if any?
Yeah, the only concern I have is more of a overuse and misuse. The reason is because really we would still believe that healthy people with mild disease who do not have any high-risk factors for severe illness may still get better, And if you see the approval, they say, approved for children more than 12 years of age with mild to moderate COVID disease who are at risk for severe disease or being hospitalized. So the last part of the sentence clearly says use it for high-risk people or high-risk children. So I think people may go for, with just mild illness, and even healthy people may go for it. That's my only concern. But I think if clinicians, physicians, providers use it appropriately, I think it's a great drug to keep people outside the hospital.
And that's kind of my next question. Only designed at this point for people 12 and older weighing more than 88 pounds with health concerns due to this. What does this mean for the people who don't fall in that category and will not be able to use this drug at this point?
Yeah, so they need to do what exactly they're doing right now. They need to be tested sooner, isolate themselves, stay home for 10 days at least, and get over with this. They do the same thing as they are doing right now. You know, test yourself early if you have symptoms. If you are healthy, you do not have any comorbidities, you will get over this.
Is this a little bit of hope for hospitals and hospital staff that have been bombarded with hospitalizations and people coming into the hospital?
Absolutely. I think this today, it was sort of a ray of hope for people in the hospital, basically, you know, and even the outpatient clinicians. For us, you know, the burden on healthcare system because of COVID has been really very high these past 2 years, and other illnesses and people, heart disease, for example, and getting surgeries that need to be done, and you know, things that are being postponed for a while, that electives, say somebody needs a knee replacement that needs to be done, that have been getting postponed because of COVID or no bed or no staff. You know, I think we can catch up with those things. I think keeping people outside the hospital would be the best thing so that we can get back to our routine hospital cases, our routine surgeries, and not worry about, you know, having our beds occupied by COVID positive patients.
The FDA's approval of both drugs is just the first step before the drug can actually get to hospitals and pharmacies. The Centers for Disease Control must also give its approval, but Dr. Afroz says the data showing their effectiveness appears strong, so she expects the CDC's approval soon. There is only one other antiviral treatment for COVID approved by the FDA. Remdesivir was approved last year. It has been available here in Iowa since May of 2020. But unlike Pfizer and Merck pills, Remdesivir is given intravenously, so it can't be taken at home. When it comes to getting vaccinated, Iowa still lags behind the national average. The CDC's latest numbers show close to 59% of all Iowans are fully vaccinated. Nationally, more than 61% of Americans are fully vaccinated. Many doctors and nurses are growing increasingly frustrated with the war on COVID. Unity Point gave them a chance to voice those frustrations on social media.
I lost 11 lives in 3 days. That has never happened in my whole life.
Leaving their kids without a parent or the spouse without a partner, and that's getting old.
The video ends with a plea for viewers to get vaccinated. It can be seen in its entirety on Unity Point's Facebook page. Well, one reason people give for not getting the COVID shot is their fear the vaccine will have serious side effects. A study published last week in the Journal of American Medical Association found serious side effects are rare. The study, conducted by the University of California, San Francisco, found while 80% of people reported short-term symptoms like fatigue, soreness, and headaches, only 0.2% reported a serious allergic reaction. Iowa State University researchers found vaccine scarcity did not drive up demand for the COVID shot. Those researchers found that one reason many of the first people eligible for the vaccine chose to wait was to allow other people to get what many saw as a rare commodity. The study found even those at high risk for COVID were willing to wait when the vaccine was described as scarce.
Health officials need to understand that some people are going to be motivated more by the individual benefits for their own health. Some people will be more motivated because of their families, and some people are going to be more motivated because of the whole community.
ISU researchers say the results of this study will help medical professionals better understand vaccine hesitancy and how to communicate future vaccine benefits with patients. Well, dealing with disaster can be overwhelming. What's now available to thousands of Iowans that will help guide them to help rebuild after this month's tornadoes and high winds.
My name is Aaron. I've been with Facebook for 2 years now.
Iowa's second derecho in 2 years blew across the state 11 days ago. It's taken the National Weather Service several days to count the number of tornadoes that dropped from the sky. At last check, the Weather Service has confirmed 43 twisters so far. That's not only the most ever recorded in December here in Iowa, but it's the most recorded in one day in the state, breaking the previous record set August 31st, 2014. The derecho and tornadoes caused damage throughout the state. Governor Kim Reynolds issued disaster proclamations for 50 of Iowa's 99 counties. That allows state assistance to go to the areas for storm cleanup and repair. KCCI's Cynthia Fodor talked with Mary Reedy, Director of Programs with the Iowa Community Action Association, a group that helps disaster victims get the help they need.
We have two programs that we would wrap under disaster services that Community Action assists with. The Iowa Individual Assistance Grant Program, so IIAGP, which is a financial assistance program up to $5,000 for households that are eligible. And then the Disaster Case Management Program, which there's no income limit. As long as you were impacted by the storm and you're a legal resident of the United States, you can receive assistance kind of walking through disaster recovery. So if that's finding other resources in your community, navigating insurance, navigating the individual assistance program, all that kind of good stuff we could assist with.
So if someone doesn't know where to start and they're looking at, you know, the building down on their property or whatever, who do they call? Where do they start?
Yeah, so we'd say contact your local community action agency. If you need to find that, you can go to iowacommunityaction.org, and we have a find an agency button. It'll let you select what county you live in, and it'll have the contact information for your local agency. It's probably the best starting place to see if you might be eligible for that individual assistance program, or if you're interested in disaster case management as well. Also encourage you to reach out to your local emergency management coordinator. They're the ones kind of overseeing the larger picture of disaster recovery in the community, so they might have some other resources or ideas of where to point you as well.
And what will a disaster case manager help people with?
Yep, so we help walk through what's called a disaster recovery plan. So we'll sit down with the household, look at what your goals are. It might be structural repairs for your home. It might be I need to move out of my home, replacing a certain property that was damaged. So it's really a collaboration with the family and then identifying what resources are available, what we might need to ask for additional resources for, if that's at the state level or beyond. So kind of breaking down the recovery process into digestible pieces, and of course pointing towards other resources that might exist. So kind of a partner in the disaster recovery process. And this program lasts for 6 months. So if you think you might be eligible for the individual assistance grant program, you have to be a resident in the county that received the disaster declaration and be at or below 200% of the federal poverty guidelines. If you think you might qualify for that and you go out and have to get food replaced because you know, your power was out, or you had a window that was broken, or part of your roof was damaged. Part of the program is if you have insurance, you need to go through that first. But if there are certain things that insurance doesn't cover, and you ended up having to pay that out of pocket, keep those receipts. You might be eligible to be reimbursed through the individual assistance grant program. It's just going to depend on your situation. So certainly encourage you to reach out to Community Action and see what you could be eligible for, and they can certainly help navigate you through the next steps.
And if you are eligible for the disaster case management program, should you hold off on doing those repairs yourself until you talk to a case manager?
I think it's always a good idea to talk to somebody about what your options are, especially if you do have insurance, but you decide not to go through the claim process with them. You think you'll do the repairs yourself. That might not allow you to be eligible for the individual assistance program. So you might be blocking yourself off from some potential avenues for assistance. So I think it's a good idea, if you're not in a, obviously emergent situation, to take a second, call Community Action and see what your options and next steps could be.
For more information, go to iowacommunityaction.org. Well, Des Moines police are still looking for victims in an immigration scam. Why attorneys say that group of people is a frequent target for fraudsters.
Bye, Mom.
Des Moines police are still tracking down victims of an immigration scam that cost them tens of thousands of dollars. This woman, Nancy Sandoval, faces theft, conspiracy, and criminal conduct charges. Police say she and a person from Texas took money from Iowa immigrants who thought the pair could speed up their residency and citizenship process.
You know, it seems to be that they were taking advantage of some vulnerable people in our community, and knowing that those vulnerabilities exist, they tried to capitalize on it.
Last week, I spoke with Della Arriaga, a local immigration attorney, about the impact this case has, not only on the immigrant community, but to the immigration attorneys that devote their careers to helping them.
Part of it, too, isn't it, that the immigrant community, and in this situation, is probably pretty vulnerable. So they're maybe more open to, I just need help, I need it quickly, I don't have time, they don't think, to vet all of the background. So they're already vulnerable and they're just trying to get help quickly.
They really are a lot of times somewhat desperate because they just want to find a fix for their situation. And so usually what I tell people, the hard part of my job is having to tell them there's absolutely nothing I can do. And I always reiterate that if I could, I would, but I'm not going to sit here and lie to you or misinform you or make you think that there's something. But the other thing that you have to consider, and our community knows that everything with immigration is not fast. It's actually quite slow. And so anybody who starts making promises of something fast, again, telltale sign, don't do it. Currently, just because of COVID, immigration is 2 to 3 times behind the normal average processing times. And so we were just commenting that I don't think that there's anything under 6 months that you can get from USCIS.
Is pretending to be a lawyer, taking advantage of the immigrant community, trying to get citizenship. How does that hit you?
First of all, it bothers me because it was hard to get that law degree and been difficult to make sure that you do what is the regulations require you to do. So it saddens me on the other part because we advocate so much for the Hispanic community, or at least I do. But the immigrant community is not just Latinos, of course, but they're already taking advantage so much as it is, and then to hear that somebody else is just doing it, it disheartens me. It's just unreal.
For those who might be trying to seek legal counsel for an immigration question, something like that, what is your advice to them to make sure they're dealing with a real lawyer, that it is an actual business?
First and foremost, recommendations, referrals, that lets you know that somebody's established and somebody's already had experience with that person. Check and see if that is a legitimate company. Anybody who tells you now, you have to do this now, or anybody who tells you, oh, you have to give me cash. I mean, these are signs. Nowadays, credit cards are it. It doesn't mean that if a person asks you for cash, doesn't mean, but if they put an urgency on it, then it's not really a good sign.
Well, some polls show Iowans favor legalizing marijuana. Next, we hear from the politicians who say the only way to make it happen is to amend Iowa's Constitution.
Starting at 5, KCCI shows you
Last week, Democratic leaders in the state Senate said Iowans want marijuana legalized here. They explained why they believe a constitutional amendment is the only way to make that happen.
Marijuana prohibition has been a costly failure. It's ending across America because it has caused far more harm than good. It's time for Iowa voters to have a direct voice in creating a new system that regulates marijuana like alcohol for adult use. In 2020, more than 4,300 Iowans were convicted of marijuana possession. Iowa taxpayers are on the hook for tens of millions annually for this failure. They pay twice as they pick up an enormous financial tab for an unfair policing and criminal justice system and the cost of the social safety net to support thousands of Iowa families that deal with the economic turmoil resulting from a criminal record. Iowans know we can do better. A majority of Iowans are in favor of significant reform. It's time for Governor Reynolds and legislative Republicans to allow voters the freedom to decide.
Iowans are ready to join the growing list of states that are regulating marijuana for adult use. 19 states have already done so. Iowans are tired of filling our prisons with nonviolent offenders, traumatizing families with separation, and taking away opportunities from far too many young adults for something that is legal in nearly half the states in our country. Iowans want to move forward on drug policies. In fact, the Des Moines Register Mediacom Iowa poll last spring showed that more than half of Iowans support legalizing marijuana for recreational uses, and more than 3/4 support expanding it for medical purposes.
Unlike many of our neighboring states, the citizens of Iowa do not have the ability to put this issue on the ballot as referendum. So we think it's time that Iowans got to have a voice and a vote in this matter.
You can't go to a retail location in Iowa and buy a joint or marijuana because it's criminally against the law. And what this constitutional amendment would do would be basically begin to treat marijuana like we treat a 6-pack of beer. So that's essentially what we're proposing, is to join those states that have taken away criminal penalties from the use and possession of marijuana.
I have not asked what Republicans might be interested in moving forward on this, but I can tell you that they certainly seem interested in constitutional amendments, as that has been a strategy that they've followed in giving Iowans the freedom to vote on initiatives such as guns and pregnancy rights of Iowans as well. So we're hopeful that they will let the people decide, as they have decided to do on so many other issues on their agenda.
We contacted Governor Kim Reynolds' office on the amendment proposal. They say they have no comment. Well, thank you for joining us for KCCI 8 News Close-Up. We'll see you right back here next Sunday. Have a great day.
Okay.